Welcome everyone. The session will be recorded, so don't worry about any juicy tip shared today. Everything will be recorded and sent back to you. We have a Q&A session at the end, and also I try to keep some time for networking. So at the end, after questions are cleared, or even during the Q&A, we can open and everyone can go screen and ask questions directly to the panelists. So the idea is to have some fun. Also at the end, it's not just like listening how other people are talking about something cool, but also to have you guys sharing your opinions, your thoughts, or any other random also question. Okay. Yes, that's it for now. And then I want to introduce, of course, today we have my mom teaching me ladies first. So we have Rebecca from Common Room. We have also Drew from DataOps.Live. And then also we got Vishwas, part of the Gainsight family, helping people on the inside side of things. Well, now it's the Digital Hub.
Exactly. I was just going to say, a new rebrand that happened just yesterday, so I also might say inside, but yeah, it's the Digital Hub right now.
Okay. Exactly. So this is the idea, to mostly take advantage of their experience and knowledge, so we all can learn. We are trying to having a chat together. So I'm going to see if I can highlight this way. There you go. So we have myself, we have Rebecca, we are missing this one. There you go. So now we can discuss. Feel free to, in the meantime, share any questions you may have across the conversation, etc. I will be, hanging out there and then help you wherever you need. Now, to keep the conversation going, I have tried to put together a few questions so we can kind of have a guide to guide us during this discussion. The first part is a bit of intro. I did some, but I would like to hear from yourself, Rebecca, a bit of your story quickly, and then the guys can do the same, please.
Sure. Thank you for sharing the spotlight and bringing us all together. My name is Rebecca Marshburn. I'm the head of the Uncommon community at Common Room, and we're a community of hands-on community practitioners, community managers, community leaders, heads of community, as well as we're starting to expand into folks who are on, oftentimes community leaders roll up into marketing teams and share like go-to-market goals with marketing and sales, like bottom line goals with their businesses. And so we're starting to see more folks who are in marketing specific roles and even sales specific roles join the community to see how they work with community teams and community leaders to understand how to best interact with community members and find that value match between who's in the community and then what they're trying to solve if and when they purchase a product. So that's me. I'm super happy to be here, and thank you. Thanks, Vishwas and Drew, for having me on this panel with y'all.
Boom, welcome. Okay, guys.
Good, Vishwas.
Was that me or was that you?
Yeah, good.
Definitely. Nice to meet everyone. Thanks again, Francisco, for kind of bringing this group together. Definitely a lot of interesting insights and learning ahead. So yeah, my name is Vish. Vishwas, you can call me Vish if it's like shorter, easier. I'm currently the enterprise CSM at Gainsight, and where we have different products, but I mainly manage the formerly Insighted, now Digital Hub side of things. And basically, I work with our customers to make sure that they're realizing the full value from the products that they use, and to essentially build thriving digital communities and more engagement hubs. I think Drew is quite familiar already with kind of what we do. And similar, I think what Rebecca mentioned, we see that these communities can be placed either in the customer success teams, could be a part of support teams, sometimes could be within marketing, sometimes also within sales teams. So it's quite broad, and depending on the use case, we address different audiences. I was also responsible for the implementations and migration within Gainsight at some point. So let's say if someone purchases our solution, also migrating communities from previous vendors, it's definitely interesting to see how companies set up communities from scratch and how they think about it, and having seen quite a lot of communities being set up at this point, it's very interesting to see what the power of customer communities can do, especially now more and more as we move towards a digital age. So yeah, excited to be here and share these insights with you all.
Alrighty. And hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm Drew Kreiger. I am a community manager currently at DataOps.Live. Previous roles really focused around the ETL database space, so kind of in that niche for the last 8-9 years now, and really just empowering users to succeed in with the tools that we provide, and through that many programs, forums, champion programs, and so on and so forth. So, working with Francisco to bring in some of my favorite tools, Common Room, and now Digital Hub from Gainsight is really exciting. So excited to have a chat about up-leveling community managers with, metrics and how to bring, value back to the business. So thank you again.
Great. Awesome. Okay.
Francisco, are you going to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah.
I'm too famous now. Well, as you can see, I'm really branded today. So, well, Francisco here, founder of Led by Community. My background is very close to the community side of things. I have worked for buddyboss.com previously. It's a community platform for WordPress. I have also worked I was the first marketing hire for Circle.so. So I helped them for a year to lead demand generation, marketing initiatives, and all that. Then at the end of last year, I said, I want to build something for community. I need to do it myself. So I love you guys. See you later. But now I'm trying to run my own initiative, and I have received amazing response from people. The newsletter is growing fast, and the community is growing. And now what we want is just to serve people interested in to learn how to improve their career, building community, or on roles related, like for instance, customer success related to and serving also people. So that's the main goal of this project. Keep serving, keep helping community builders. That's my vision for all this. And too much of me, let's do it. Now, I tried to keep the agenda with a bit of structure. So the first part is related to data-driven community management. For instance, the first question is, Drew, don't feel pressured, but what metrics should B2B community managers focus on? I want that idea to start. What key metrics should B2B community managers focus on? Your thoughts? Oh, Lori.
Yeah, I think there's tiers and kind of stages within a community that community managers should be looking at. And, I think first and foremost is just, understanding what the community wants and who they are, and kind of setting that foundation of the community. And then it's just basic, like membership growth, how many members do you have? How many members are participating? And then really engaging those members, and then looking at engagement rates to actually how many pieces of content are they contributing to. So it's really about constantly elevating, kind of changing those metrics as time goes on, and so on and so forth. So again, I think it starts with membership growth, and then kind of how many of those members are now active. And then from there, possibly like how many members are like producing content for you? Are they speaking on behalf of said tool company, those kind of things. So, you never want to be, as a community manager, kind of reporting on the same thing quarter after quarter, year after year. You kind of always want to be pushing the envelope, and those are the kind of things that I look to do at a very basic stage. And there's like other things, right? Is like changing reach and impressions to, excuse me, I'm looking at my notes on the side, but reach and impressions to like conversations, to like translating to like how that conversation's into like business impacts and those kind of things. So, that's the way I kind of look at it. Rebecca, Vish, I don't know if you guys have other insights.
Yeah, I also have my notes open, but I want to, Vish, I don't want to like jump in if you had something that you wanted to
Yeah.
add.
I mean, we can kind of ping pong off of this, and I think quite a few points I think Drew already mentioned. For me, when we look at what metrics to measure, it's kind of a broad question. So, like, you need a few filters to think about this, right? The first one is who are you reporting these metrics to, and based on that, I think what you report on like kind of changes. So, if you want to report on some of the more business outcomes, usually when you communicate to leadership, executives, and more senior folks within the organization, I think there you kind of look at more revenue related metrics that you can kind of report on, but that's really more, again, a longer view of the community. And then now if you were to focus on something like community health, this is more, based on what Drew mentioned, more the day-to-day activity that sort of informs your operational strategy. So, and then you can break it down further, right? So based on this kind of use cases that you want to hit. Usually what we normally see is that when you launch a community, you're focused more on the engagement side of things, where you want to make sure that, as Drew mentioned, there's more users that are joining. And then essentially these users are also adding more content in the community. If you were to really, really just boil it down to, I think, simple criteria. And then as the community matures, I think you also want to be looking at how much content is coming from not just your teams, but from the community members.
Yep.
And out of that, are these discussions? How many of these discussions are addressed from you versus how many of these discussions or questions are addressed by the community, right? So I think, this can go quite broad, and I think the main thing that I would say is, one, what stage of your community maturity are you at? And the second one would be, who are you reporting these metrics to? I think these two really decide kind of what metrics you want to report on. Does that answer the question? I know it was a bit broad.
Yeah, no, Vish, that was great. You better said than I. The biggest thing I think I kind of missed is there is a lot of pre-work that you need to do. There's a lot of questions that you need to have with your reporting manager, but then also the company, right? Why are they bringing you in as this community manager?
Exactly.
How do you provide that value back, right? And no, that's wonderful. I think one other thing I wanted to note is, I think CMX does a great job. The community of CMX does a great job with this kind of space model. I don't know if many people have seen it, but it's looking at kind of what is the community objective, and that being support, product acquisition, content, external engagement, and then success of the customer, right? Like these things all touch departments surrounding community. So again, asking that question within the company to the reporting manager, what is the value that we want to bring back to the business? So sorry, Rebecca.
Yeah, I would echo. I think what I was thinking about when Francisco had kind of teed us up with this question was it's what both of you said, right? It's what your community wants and needs, what you started off with, Drew, and then Vish, it's like and what your business wants and needs, and so you have to find that intersection first. And then I like reviewing the thread that you posted in Led by Community Slack channel. I think it was Danishri that talked about what Rosie Sherry thinks about when she thinks about success of community. And that's something where, for example, she's leading a community of practice, right? And so she's like, from the job board, are people actually getting hired? So questions or measurements like that. Versus if we're talking about a B2B community, it's more likely going to be maybe a hybrid, but a community of product and practice rather than just practice. And so that's going to be, once you add that B2B sense, that the idea that it's a community of product along with a community of practice, then you have to say like, okay, who do I roll up into and what are our overall goals? So I imagine Vish would be like, let's say you roll up into, VP of support, then you're going to be like, I need to measure community response rates to understand if other community members are answering other community members' questions before our teams can get to them. So that's going to be like ticket deflection, right? And so the way I often think about this and the way we think about it holistically, I'll just talk about my personal experience right at Common Room, because we come from a very opinionated point of view, is that we're like, okay, the basic metrics that you need, depending on if you roll up into marketing or sales or customer success or support, is response rate, engagement rate, sentiment. And then you can use these as levers to understand directionally, are you trending more positive or more negative? And then you understand where you need to click into. topics, like major, like what's top of mind for people and community members, what are they talking about the most and why, and then
Uh-oh.
we lost her for a second. There you go.
Yes. Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah, are you back? Are you back? Oh.
Okay. I'm so sorry. That's, the part where I froze was probably where I said the most brilliant thing. No, and then membership and engagement by source and location. So this idea of like, if most people are engaging and spending their time, let's say in Slack and discourse, but for whatever reason, your team originally was focused on social channels and Discord, then you start to understand where people actually are gravitating to naturally, and then where maybe you should, reconnect your resources or reallocate your resources, knowing that all of us have limited resources of time and teammates. And then location, like membership by location, physical location, right? So we've even seen community teams inform HR headcount to say, did you know that our community is rapidly growing in Southeast Asia? And we have no one there on that time zone to support people who are building in Southeast Asia. So there's also like an actual, the tyranny of geography. There's a real, there's something real to measure, even in like where people are located and how to meet them where they are, both physically and digitally.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very, very, very insightful idea. So, do you guys think that this, and Rebecca, do you guys think that this way that we try to measure, data, or like touch points inside the community has evolved with time? Let's say, my point is to try to explain how this has become more mature, like because now we know exactly, like there are so many things to measure, but how that has changed? How do you feel that has changed with the time? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're being asked as community managers a lot more to get deeper into that those metrics and those kind of reporting, and I think it's good. And I think one thing that we've seen with community managers is I think like 12% of community managers in the last year have been fired, and I think it's becoming more relevant to really push the envelope of kind of being the glue of, and I think we're going to get into this in the next question is like, how does community management, role kind of intersect with customer success? And I think this kind of speaks to it a little bit too, is, we're being asked to kind of be this glue of customer success, support, community, sales, marketing, all these kind of things. And if we're kind of this siloed group that is only focused on said members on a forum or in a Discord, Slack, and those kind of things, things are going to be lost. So I think kind of working closer with these teams and kind of having these metrics that coincide with these teams, kind of leverage you as a community manager to remain kind of relevant to the company and kind of provide that value beyond just said community member, active members, engagement, those kind of things. So
based on what you're saying, that data from community is valuable in two ways. Like one way for of course, like business purpose, business vision, goals, but on top is yours. Like as professional, you want to also prove yourself and prove to others in the company that the work you do is valuable. Probably that's the secret trick there.
You need to get paid, yes. Ultimately,
exactly.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, if you have the right data and you are showing like proper outcome, you can also like ask for raises, etc. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you can, if you are showing your value, you can keep growing inside the company like longer.
Yeah.
It's really important. It's not something like just to please the VPs or just to please the senior people or the board. No, it's like, because firstly, we as professionals can back ourselves. I'm worth it. It's amazing.
One last thing, I was kind of thinking about this last night preparing for this, and I think community managers are becoming more of like growth marketers specifically for this, as I call like customer excellence, right? Again, it's connecting support, success, sales, marketing, and we kind of are this team that kind of goes in and finds the broken pieces, how to activate and to pick up the clutter, do all these things that just improves, smooths out, and really elevates this user experience. And I think that's kind of what community is becoming in these recent kind of years. And again, it's how do we take those metrics that were probably 5-10 years ago, just looking at the member accounts, engagement, how many people are responding, response times, and it's really just pushing it forward of connecting customer success, support, sales, those kind of things, and bringing it back to the company, meaning each department, and in those kind of respects. So I don't know if Vish or Rebecca has other comments on that, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think no, Vish, you go. Each time I'm
like, go ahead.
I'm so jazzed on it.
He's holding. Vish is holding himself for the next session. No worries.
Yeah, Vish should get the whole next section. So, I mean, I think like when marketing was just burgeoning, right? And it's like at first they were measuring click-throughs and opens, and now there's a whole stack of MarTech tools and a whole confluence or superfluence of tools that you can choose, right? That's, I think, where we are, let's say 15, 20 years later in the idea of community, where we started out with metrics where it was like, okay, general engagement, are people engaging? Or not even that, just size of community. Are more people joining? Like, what is the size? And we're so far beyond that. And I think it's because now that we have that as like a foundational starting place, then you need to layer on nuance. Like, well, just because we have a really large community, what is the quality of that engagement? What are people actually getting from that engagement? And then if you're a B2B community, you have business leaders saying, yeah, but what has the community done for me lately? And so now we're layering on those business impact metrics. And I think some of those like major KPIs or metrics or data points is community impact on open pipeline, right? Or community impact and basically how many folks came to the community because they were interested in the subject matter and then learned how they could be successful with your product through conversations other people were having. And then community impact on deals that are won. And so this idea where it's like, okay, now that people are in the community and they understand that other people are using the product in ways that to solve problems that they want to solve problems in their own industries, then they're like more, it's not just like they, PLG, they click on the product and then they play around with it and then they maybe buy it. They're actually seeing like deeper, more powerful ways to apply the use of the product. And we see that these deals are closing faster. And so I think one of the other things that we measure in terms of business impact of a community is the time to close on deals. So do people who are in the community, do those deals close faster than people who are not in the community? And so happy to share this with people later, but we actually have various business impact reports that we've done with specific customers that we anonymized for their privacy. But we looked at people who were community engaged, so just people who were in the community, and then people who were community first, meaning they showed up in the community before they ever showed up in a CRM, before they ever showed up on anything that's, let's say, a marketing campaign or a sales campaign brought into place. And so I think that's where we're moving in terms of metrics, where it's like, okay, we started with raw numbers of membership in the community. Then we evolved to, okay, now how are those people engaging? Then we evolved to what is the quality of those engagements? And then we evolved to, which is where I think we're going and pushing the envelope, all of us are like, okay, now that quality is high, what does that mean for the business and how do we actually measure that? And so I'm super excited for where it's going, because I think when we get to that point, which I think we are rapidly speeding to that point, right? Our goal is to productize it for everyone, not have to do like bespoke reports for individual customers, but to make that available to everyone. Is that once we get to those like credible, consistent, deep data points, then we become as entrenched in an organization as marketing or sales, right? With like, you're not like, oh, well, community is nice. You're like, this is real data that helps us really understand that community is more than nice. It's necessary.
Wow, this is important. Yeah, I mean, how much value or say money, the work bring to the business is, of course,
And if I
Super
could just add
important.
one point on that, I think that was such a holistic answer, Rebecca. That was beautiful to listen to. uh, Also because what you said kind of ties into what Drew mentioned with, like, if you're able to prove this value to the business, right? Your business case of why you need to get a raise is completely there. Like your
Right.
why you need a team is justified. Why you probably need to put more resources on the
Yep.
community team is justified. So yeah, I think you just close the loop on that. So yeah.
Totally.
Amazing. Yeah.
And,
Perfect.
and one other thing
That's
to add, exactly what Rebecca was mentioning is kind of understanding where these users are within that sales process, or even that user's journey of kind of onboarding that tool. That's exactly what we did at a previous role at StreamSets, is actually using Common Room to understand where users were within their journey of actually kind of usage and those kind of things. So when a company was using the tool, it's great. Everyone probably wouldn't go to the community to ask questions and do those kind of things. But when we saw a lot more usage or a lot more questions being asked, we knew that they were starting a new project, a new division within the company. The larger company itself was doing more and more and more. So I would kind of notify the sales, customer success, and support kind of teams, this customer excellence, right, group, and kind of say, hey, this company Nike is really looking at, doing X, Y, and Z. Here are some questions that they're looking for. Customer success, go ask them, where we could help them to speed up that kind of processes, where probably before, they would try to do new things with the tool, new projects, and then kind of fall face or just be upset and go back to the manager, say, hey, we can't do it. Or, hey, we might want to look at this tool. In reality, StreamSets, the previous company I was at, we could do it all, right? So that proved to be kind of the value of buying a tool, Common Room, and kind of, also providing that value back to the business. So just wanted to touch on that and kind of the highlighting of Common Room there. So
yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. This is
Thank
not
you.
sponsored by Common Room, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm just so my presence is like, hey guys.
You're not seeing the logos jumping anywhere. Okay, let's move on, because this is I mean, we have a lot of ideas
It's
to share.
Vish's section.
Yeah, exactly. It's the juicy section. Now we want to bring to the spot Vish, the rock star of customer success. No, the first question is related, for of course all of you, but how does a strong community contribute to customer success? Like, in your experience, how your colleagues have said, hey, because you're doing this and that, I love you. No, I am customer success manager. Like, come on. This is open for you guys.
Yeah. Well, given the amount of hype around this is Vish's no pressure. No, but I think there's definitely a couple of areas, and it's very interesting to see, right? And for someone who feels new in community, just FYI, my background is electronics and IT engineering with a specialization in data science. So,
Wow.
of course, this whole thing. I mean, I've been in the like over the last, let's say, 8 to 10 years. I think I've been in the more customer-facing roles, such as a strategic account partnerships manager. But I think having that data lens really helps with a lot of things, and that's also kind of uncovering the numbers behind this, right? So I think now being in a customer success role, working with communities, I think is definitely a very interesting spot to be in. My perspective on this, and just this is also some of the thought leadership that I see, that I saw that Gainsight Digital Hub inside it used to have even from before. It's just how communities can be super beneficial for customer success teams. And it's when I say communities, it's not just purely a community, but I mean more from a digital hub, engagement hub kind of a format. And so that can go from, I think, depending on the stage of the customer lifecycle. So if you were to visualize from when you're pre-sales, let's maybe start with that. I know this is not exactly customer success, but at that stage, as Rebecca mentioned, you already have community being a value add for why someone needs to buy a particular product. Like I have personally seen many examples in the last, I think, year or so, because you start noticing these things a little more now. Whenever you want to buy a SaaS product, especially if you look at the B2B SaaS environment, having a community is one of the reasons why I would want to buy that particular product. Because if I want support, I know I just don't have to depend on a particular support team that probably, has a limited number of time that they're working at. Community is available all the time. So I think it starts from there to the whole onboarding section. So when, let's say, when someone does purchase a particular solution, and this is where where we come to the customer success, the adoption stage, is how fast are they getting value from that particular software. Like this was what my role was before when I was the onboarding manager, was making sure the time to value is as fast as possible, and how can community help with that, making sure that you connect with other users who are in a similar stage of the journey, right? So I think enabling people getting value from the platform, I think is a key criteria. And finally, you also have the adoption and the advocacy stage, where, like I mentioned, you have the one-to-many approach, as we call it, but then with community, you amplify that, where you have a traditional, let's say you have a CSM looking after a number of accounts. Two, you move towards a whole community looking after the community looks after kind of each other, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
well, I think you can really help offload some of the support teams with the most common answers that they keep getting. Could
Yeah.
be just a question on the community, could be a knowledge base article on the platform, right? And
Yeah,
that leaves your teams to do more high value work. So yeah, there's a lot more that we can dig into, but I think this is just the high level trends that I've seen.
makes sense. I have noticed this, for instance, with the Tableau community. No, like the database Tableau. No, so they have like huge user groups. No, they did a big event not much time ago, and I can see the value, because Tableau is a complex product. It's not easy to use, but without community, you are dead. Like it's impossible to go through or set up stuff, because there are Jedis there that are users that can just use it. Hey guys, I'm trying to build this report and blah blah blah, and always someone come. Like, well, there are 1,000 there, right? And someone's come. Hey, I have done this before, this way, that way. Hey, this article, we discussed this 2 years ago. Hey, you can grab this. Wow. So the value for those attempting to get issues solved is huge. Yeah, I agree. Then, for instance, how do you think it's possible? Like, customer success has its own goals, like the broader goals as a function. How that can play at the same level with community, how both can support as one. What do you think? Drew, also you can of course share your thoughts here.
Sorry, repeat that question. I was replying to somebody in the chat.
Yeah, of course. How do you align community management goals with broader customer success objectives?
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. I think currently right now at DataOps.Live, we are not even at that stage. Right now, we are onboarding the digital hub of Gainsight. And I think what Vish was saying previously was, making sure that there's a place for these to go, and basically having this like house. I kind of look at it as a house, right? And like a party, right? This community. You want to have a house, this place where people could go, and you want to have furniture, right? Furniture in this case would be like content and those kind of things. And if you have no furniture in this house, people are going to think it's weird, right? So when a user comes to look at a tool, you want to make sure that there's furniture, content, and there's other things there, and people actually coming in and out, and those kind of things. So customer success is very important, like I mentioned before, of like kind of this customer excellence stage. But I think could be this place, and I think a lot of these communities is a place where knowledge-based articles could go, where people have repeated questions over how-to articles, FAQs, troubleshooting, these kind of things will be placed there. So when users search it via the web, or if they know just to go to the community forum, then those kind of articles and those kind of things could be there to offload customer success being pinged for support, kind of, or pinged from emails or tickets, or however your company is doing that process. But it's really about just kind of putting content there and having it available. And then kind of the next stage, I would say, is allowing people to produce that content, to become kind of this customer success support kind of knowledge-based writers, and offloading those. So, and having, deeper relationships with somebody that potentially brought up something, and then it's overseen multiple times, and then actually like reaching out to that said top user and saying like, hey, you brought up this great thing. We'd love to turn this issue into a knowledge base. Do you like could you spin up like what your problem was, what the process was, and then how we overcame that, and we like co-write. And this kind of touches back to like this user-generated content, and having that ability within the community forum is really empowering. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how we see community and customer success kind of working together there.
Vish, now that you are working on this function, customer success, do you have any framework, or are you using currently any tools that are helping you work together with the community team, for instance?
No, super good question, and I think that also links up with the previous question, right? How do community and customer success go together? I think, and I would have loved to hear also Rebecca's thoughts on this. Maybe I'll actually answer this after. But there's two major things that I think you can report on. One is from a retention standpoint, right? And retention could be your revenue retention, or could be your actual. Hey, Rebecca.
We got you back.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to be back. I'm so sorry.
No worries. We were talking about community and how does that link with customer success. And I was just saying that there's two main kind of lenses that you can view this with. One is from a retention angle. So it could be actual customer retention, and then could be revenue retention, and then eventually also upsells and overall customer spend, right? And the second one is more from an advocacy standpoint, is let's say the number of references or number of advocates that you get from community. Now, this links with your second question, Francisco, is what tools are you using? I think just with now Insighted and Gainsight, what we're trying to do, or Digital Hub and Gainsight, what we're trying to do is let's look at what percentage of your customers are on the community to begin with. Let's say there's 50% of your overall customer base that are on the community. Now, out of this 50%, do we see a correlation with the customers who are on community? Do they have a higher sentiment? Do they have a higher engagement? Do they have eventually
or tickets?
Or lower number of tickets? Or are they renewing much more? Are they spending much more with you?
Mm-hmm.
And all of this it's not really that difficult to track if you have the right tools, especially if it links with whatever CRM that you use. All you need to know is this member who's on community is from this particular customer of yours. And then once you link your customer data with your community activity data, the world just opens up in terms of what you can report on, right? And I think if you can go back to your VPCS, or if you can go back to your CCO, whoever it is, saying, look, we've seen that out of the 100 customers who are on community versus the 100 other customers who are not, we see that the ones who are on community are more engaged, and that results in higher renewal rates. They continue to stay with us. They're potentially spending more. And then this goes back to the point that we spoke before with being able to prove your value, being able to prove the community's value, and then eventually, it's kind of, it speaks for itself. The results speak for itself. So I don't know if I was able to answer the question, but
yeah,
no,
totally,
great.
Totally.
That was wonderful.
So I think that customer success and community are kind of best partners. Yesterday, I was in an interview with a founder of a platform to collect feedback on software. Let's say you want to create a beta environment for someone, and how that platform was even created to help community managers, help product managers grab the beta people, send the invites, and then manage the questions, because the feedback, let's say different elements on the UI, UX, the product manager was leaving comments, and then the community manager was replying to the suggestions from the beta testers. So even I would say the way that community management is helping is across the board, customer success, product managers, and product. So it's great.
And now, just sorry, Francisco, I know we're a few minutes.
Go on.
The product piece, I think there's so much more value that you can unlock. And that's something that I'm very interested in myself. Just when you unlock the whole product feedback loop with, getting ideas from your community, getting ideas, in getting beta participants, getting product champions, getting your customer advisory board. There's so much value that you can extract on that side. and then you can probably host another like a webinar.
Only to talk about it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You are signed. You are signed. Perfect. Now, yeah, I'm getting like a allergy right now. Sorry, I'm speaking like weird, but let's try to move on because time is ticking, and I think that we have the final section that is mostly try to know from the kind of software side of view or point of view, how do you guys feel that, let's say Common Room or the Digital Hub are helping communities today to one second. I'm missing this one, and I'm not sure why it's moving after a certain time. Sorry. I'm not
It's
sure.
really
This is
keeping us
better.
on track. It's like, no, you can't do that anymore. You're past time. Yeah.
Maybe. So the idea is the final section is just a quick maybe bird eye on how Rebecca, for instance, do you feel that the Common Room is supporting community managers, providing more data, the things that maybe they even haven't think about it, that can be tracked to help them. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think well, Common Room and Uncommon, our community are the same. We are the same body, different faces, same body. I don't know if that quite works as a saying, but hopefully there are two ways to look at this. One, as a community and as a community of community practitioners, community leaders, and product users. Hopefully, as a community, we're helping each other not only think about the practice of community leadership, but also how to best use the tool to apply those practices. So setting Uncommon aside for a second and just talking about the product or platform, my whole goal, and I think our whole goal shared, right, is that community teams ultimately need to be embedded in the organization like any other function in the organization, like a marketing team, like a sales team, like a support team, like success. And in order to get there, I'm probably like being very repetitive, but like we have to show that business impact. We are evolving in that way where we have to show those like deep data points that the stronger your community is, the stronger your business outcomes are. And like those two things are interrelated. And so I think, Drew, I really appreciate that you did this. You talked about a little bit about the CMX Community Industry Report. I think they just published it like a week ago, right?
Okay, great.
Yeah, and so they said 30% of communities are using 5 or more tools in their tech stack, and that can be all sorts of things, right? That can be forums, message boards, WhatsApp chats, Slacks. That could be Zoom, Meetup, like all sorts of different tools that people try to cobble together, right? To be like, my community wants to meet here, but I have to use this in order to serve them. And then I have to get event data from here. And then hopefully I can connect it to our CRM. And then maybe I'll understand if there's like relationships between who's in the community and then who's showing up as a sales qualified lead. And so right now, thinking about at least 30% are using 5 or more in their tool stack, tech stack, and even many are using many more, and a few are using 8. But bless you.
Sorry.
No worries. But I think as we're seeing that, like there are only more tools to add to the stack. And I think what Common Room's goal, right, is like there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of signal within that noise. But how do we help you as a community leader once you've decided or aligned with your business leaders, like what are those intersections of what the community needs and what the business needs? Once you know what those are, then Common Room allows you to take actions on that. The whole point is like, okay, if you know that you want to increase engagement and make sure that, or let's say community response rate, right? Let's say your success or support, and you want your community response rate to be 90%, then what workflow automations, right? Like automated messages can you send to folks to help incentivize them or reward them or just acknowledge them for the help that they provide in your community, right? What cohorts of users can you start to segment out to be like, hey, this community member answered, had 5 replies to other community members within the last week. How do we make sure, like, trigger a team alert on that and then automatically send a message to say, I'd love to feature you in our next blog post. I'd love to call you out in our next community post, or I'd love to send you a piece of swag, or I'd love to do something for you to like acknowledge the the work that they're doing in that space. So then what we're like, I think a platform like what we want to do at Common Room, right, is once you identify and align with your specific B2B industry and team what your goals are, that there are various ways that you can use the platform to engage different cohorts or segments of members and then talk to them in the language that matters to them, right? Like, what is it that motivates them? What is it they're trying to do? What would be useful for them? Sometimes it's, you know, physical objects. Sometimes it's just making sure that they're acknowledged for their work and contributions. Sometimes it's helping deliver, like distribute some of their like thought leadership beyond their normal networks. There are all sorts of ways, right, that community members can feel gratified. And so as Common Room, I think that's what our tool is meant to do, right? Is to make sure that you can serve your community member needs, your business needs. You have various ways to do that. And then ultimately you're able to report on that and say, we wanted our response rate to be 90%. It was at 82%. We put together this community, let's say, workflow process where we cohorted out a segment of users. We activated those or members. We activated those community members. We acknowledged those community members. They fed back into the community success loop, right? And now we can see that our numbers are now hitting 90% response rate. And what that reflects is a savings in this much time, in this much, frankly, cash, right? And a success or support team backlog.
Wow, that's interesting. So for instance, how are you able to, for instance, it's easier, when you are setting up workflows or automations to, let's say, hey, I want to create a sequence for 2 weeks, so I can send message every other day, etc. But how things can, how can you keep the momentum after that initial sequence? That is a challenge that I'm seeing. You at the beginning, when, for instance, in the Slack community you join, you get the sequence easy, and it feels so nice. But then after that, how do you kind of don't forget them? Like your lurkers or inactive people, even that sometimes simply are there but never logged in, never check what is happening. How can we keep going?
Yeah, so I think there's like different types of things you might want to do there, right? So one would be that the sequence you're talking about sounds like a welcome to the community, here's how to get involved, right? That's like a welcome onboarding sequence. But then there's sequences that are re-engagement sequences. So after a month, right, you say, hey, if there's been a month at the month mark, automatically send this person a message and say, hey, here's our latest blog post, and if you need any help, you don't have to ask me. Here are 5 leaders in the community, and I mentioned those leaders' names, and they, love talking about X, Y, and Z. So that way, that community member who maybe hasn't, or after a month, they have someone other than necessarily you to reach out to, but feel like they have a little bit more knowledge and connections within the community. And that also highlights people who are leaders in the community who are like, thanks for calling me out. I feel really proud that I'm
that's good.
To name
that's
there,
a good
right? So that's like a at a month mark generic, right? But you could also say, hey, send a different message to people at a 2-month mark if they have not engaged within the past month. And then think about what do they need there? Like, what do they need in that process? So I think there are re-engagement messages. There is something really divine, simple yet complicated around finding the right segments or cohorts of members where those members, for example, have something in common. So for example, I was just talking to a DevRel community leader yesterday, and he was like, my community is not very engaged. And I think it's because they're sort of like, even though it's a developer product, you have like back-end infrastructure engineers, you have, API engineers, you have like front-end web devs. And he's like, it feels hard to get a conversation going. And so we were looking at cohorts like, okay, let's look at all the principal engineers, because there's something that happens at a principal engineering level that people can really understand each other's challenges. And so we are cohorting out different members to find relationships or commonalities between people. So you could start the spark with smaller subsets of making sure that people have something in common and then growing the conversation from there. The last thing I'll say is surveys, right? I think it's super important to be able to poll and survey your community. And it's also now with automations, right, and automated surveys, it's actually like quite easy to send, and then quite easy for that person to take one small, you're not asking them a big thing, but they can take just one small action to like re-engage with the community and also have their voice heard. And so, for example, we sent out a survey that was like, hey, to all of our community members, doesn't mean that everyone's using Common Room. It's people who are practitioners of just community leadership in general. Many of them are product users. So we segmented out just people who were using the product, and we sent a survey that said, are you getting value out of the community? And then we sent one survey that said, are you getting value out of the product? And then that really helps us calibrate. Okay, last month, people were like, absolutely, like, 80% high value out of the community, but 75% of the product. What can we do? Does that mean we need to answer questions faster? Does that mean we need to consider different channels for how people are getting their answers? Does that mean we need to surface more product help in the product application interface itself? So I think there are different ways, and then you can do that monthly where it's a super simple survey, but you really start to get benchmarks and foundational understandings of where your community is at a point in time.
So you can like crush one topic per month, so people are happy, filled with their needs. Yeah, this is amazing. Wow, amazing insights. I'll take this speech and share it on social by itself because it was a nice strategy. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, thank you.
One
for
shout out
that.
is one time we did send I was like, okay, what's going on, Drew? Like, I know he's in our community. And he did answer our survey, the last survey that he took. He was like, I'm getting value out of it. And I was like, thanks, Drew.
Okay.
That's great. Well, I think that we have chat enough. People, I don't want to bore everyone that is still waiting for us. Mostly, what I want is firstly, thanks, to Rebecca for coming today. Drew, Vish, this was really amazing. I have learned lots. I am also now, implementing. I'm using also more than 5 tools to try to run my own. So I need to keep, simplifying my flows. And we have, of course, questions. 1 second. Let me change this topic to questions. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, I see Michael has a question in the chat. I'd
sorry.
love to hear some approaches for making sure to get responses from people. Do you use certain channels or formats? Do you incentivize or offer shout outs? I think there's a lot of questions. What type of community are you managing, Michael? Is it B2B? Is it
community of practice? So we've got a bunch of professionals who are in there sharing ideas for their industry.
Okay. I mean, specifically for B2B, what I do, and I don't know if this would work, and I'm just speaking for what I do, is I do contests, specifically like showcasing what they do and explaining how they've gotten there. For instance, our tools that I work on are kind of a graphical user interface like, and so kind of screenshot, paragraph, and then that's kind of gets people like drummed up with sharing what they've done and kind of creates this conversation. So I don't know if there's a way to kind of gamify that or something. I really don't like the gamification, but that kind of gets people flowing and going. And the gifts, the prizes are like Legos. These developers are like gung-ho on Legos, and I am too, as you can see, but that always seems to work. I don't know if Vish or other Vish or other Rebecca or others in the group here have other.
In my case, what I think helped, Michael, is first, let's say you have a specific question or topic you want to cover or get inputs in. What you can do is try to, to do that, you need a bit of pre-work, but probably you want to keep track of skills of your people, or maybe certain areas where they are kind of experienced. And then what you could do, whenever you want to post something, try to tag them, call them out. Hey, exactly. I know we have John that is a Jedi doing this and that. We have Anna that is amazing, delivering this and that, and she has done this and that. Do you guys have any thoughts? No, and that way the thread will get traction right away or comments, and then other people, because they will probably receive the notification, hey, something is happening there. But if they see already other people engaging, that will encourage participation. I mean, on my case, that has helped lots. But for that, you need to try to keep track a bit of learnings from your people. So whenever you are tagging something, it's really relevant for them. So they feel like I'm coming here, I'm the expert. Let me share what I know, right? So you are kind of using their ego to bring engagement on. This is my experience.
Yeah. I have a couple of points, maybe if I can add. Because this is such a common question, Michael. I think from people who like starting up communities. One thing that this might sound like a bit of old school advice in the whole, how do we scale things? But actually talking to community members, I think can give so many insights for community managers. And I'll give an example, right? You can do this, especially when you have. Are you noticing there's some people who are already posting, Michael? Like there's some people that are already active on your community?
Yeah, we've got some regular contributors, and it's actually not so much the general engagement and contributions. It's more so like if I'm asking a question to get feedback on something like an initiative that we've rolled out, getting insight from people on like, okay, how do they perceive that initiative? Is it solving the needs that they have?
Got it. I mean, what I'm about to say, I think can apply for a lot of different stages, but I've recommended some of the community managers I work with is just on let's say a monthly basis. Look at the top 3 or top 4 contributors onto the community. Schedule a 15-minute in-person, not in person, but like an actual conversation with them. And this can actually go a long way. And you can ask the same sequence of questions with them. Okay, first one being, why are you coming to the community? Because that's already going to give you insight why people are showing up in the first place, right? The second one might be if they've contributed, you can ask them what made them, post something. Well, what made them answer a question? What made them give a certain piece of feedback? And if you repeat this process, I know this might seem unscalable, but what you are doing is you're kind of creating mini Michaels who can be there when you're not there.
Sounds great.
And I've seen this being successful for quite a few community managers. I don't know, maybe someone else, Rebecca, Drew, Francisco, maybe you've seen this yourself at some point.
I'm offering right away when you join the community. I'm offering 15 minutes for a chat. Yeah, I'm just, hey, I'm here. Give me a shout. Yeah, I think that it works. I have been even, for instance, receiving positive comments right away. Hey, this is nice. Warm welcome. Offering your time to. What I did, I locked my calendar at up to 2 per day, 15 minutes per day, just in case a few come. So people can always find something there every day. So yeah.
The only thing I might add is is if you're giving like an open form, almost like the way people would approach surveys, right? If you give an open text box for an answer, less people answer because it feels a little scary, or you're like, oh, I want to give a thoughtful answer and I don't have the time, or I'm not quite sure what to say. So I would also vary your format. So try a poll or a survey, right? And make it such a low lift where the barrier to participation is just like a yes or no, or a thumbs up, thumbs down. And then as people start to like engage a little, and then as you see who engages, then you can go deeper on each question or make even more complex survey questions. But if what you want is engagement in the beginning, make it the lowest lift possible so that people can participate and then grow off from there too.
Yeah. I think that just comes with like trust and like knowing, you know what I mean? So building that trust and those kind of channels really helps.
100.
Nice. Now,
I wish they had a 100
if you send, if you send swarts, also you get invited to speak for a session now. I got this like even before I started my community, long time ago. When I was working for Circle. Yeah, it was nice. Okay, I think that we are good. I don't want to abuse of your time. So let's thanks everyone. Also, Michael, for your questions. We could read also people asking on the chat, but really I'm excited. This was the first discussion panel, and I think that we have learned lots. So thank you, Drew. Thank you, Vish. Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks everyone who joined us today. I'll stop the recording now. So take care. See you soon.